This is Arts Weekly. Arts Weekly is produced in cooperation with the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design.
Welcome to Arts Weekly. I'm John O'Connell, Dean of the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. We are so fortunate to live in an area with strong theater community. Today we'll be focusing on two theaters, one local and one regional. In the second half of the show, Rachel Montragan from the Wagon Wheel Theater in Warsaw will be here to tell us about their upcoming fall schedule. But first, I'm pleased to welcome my friend Craig Humphrey of the IPFW Department of Theater, who is directing the first production of the year, The Fantasticks. Craig, welcome to Arts Weekly, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, John. Glad to be here.
We're old hats at this little sit across the table.
Long time.
Long time we've done this conversation.
Yes.
But for our viewers who are new to Arts Weekly, tell us a little bit about your background in the theater and what brought you to IPFW.
All right. Well, I am currently the interim chair of the theater at IPFW.
Which I just want to say I'm very thankful for. Doing a great job.
Thank you. I have been here. This is starting my 24th year. I came in fall of '91 as the assistant professor of costume design, and been here since, and have still work in costumes, but also in musical theater and teaching and directing. And before I was here, I spent 3 years at the University of Mississippi and a little time freelancing in Pennsylvania as a costume designer. And been here for a long time.
Right,
so.
and you did some, in that freelancing time, you worked with some nice Broadway costume designers.
I had the terrific opportunity to be the assistant designer for the original off-Broadway,
just completely through.
Burn This. Lanford Wilson's Burn This.
Burn This, right.
But the company, the company that produced all of
Circle Rep.
Circle Rep, thank you.
Yes.
With their production of Burn This, as assistant to Laura Crow, who is a regional, national, internationally well-known designer. That was a terrific opportunity.
Right.
Got to work with the late Lanford Wilson and John Malkovich, Joan Allen. That was a terrific experience.
Fantastic. Well, Circle Rep was quite a theater in its time in the 70s and 80s.
It was.
I worked a little bit there in the end of the 80s before they went defunct, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure I had something to do with that.
Well, I was there at the same time.
Oh,
so
okay. Well, there we go. We're both a little
late
bit.
80s,
There we go.
yes.
Yeah. But you're also an actor. You started
every now
out
and
in
again,
acting.
started
now
out
and
as an
again,
actor,
you were in my
yes.
production of Noises Off. You
Right.
did a fantastic job. So I was just thinking about that the other day. I thought, wait a minute, Craig's actor, director, costume designer extraordinaire. That's fantastic.
Well, it's jack of all trades.
A man of the theater.
Master of none.
Exactly. I do a little bit of some of them pretty well.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you are, as you said, interim chair of theater. And you are directing the first production of 5, which is
The Fantasticks by Harvey Jones and Tom Jones and Harvey Schmidt. The longest-running musical ever.
Right.
Ran off-Broadway for over 45 years. Right. Closed briefly and has reopened again, and is still running in New York.
I have to say that I lived in New York, for quite some time in the theater, and it used to be sort of a joke going, have you been in the Fantasticks yet? That's the beginning of your career.
Right.
You gotta get in the Fantasticks, and then you'll move uptown.
Move on. Yes.
Everybody's had a run through the Fantasticks.
Right.
Because it's a great play, It's a fantastic.
It's a perennial favorite. I mean, audiences love it. I love it. This is the second time directing it.
Oh, really?
I did it when we did it in 1996, which was the last production. Our season this year is 5 shows representing the 5 decades of theater at IPFW. And so we're doing shows that all the shows of this season have been done before. And
that's part of IPFW's 50th celebration of their 50 years as an institution.
Right, and the theater department's been there from day one. And,
absolutely.
The Fantasticks is actually the one production that has been produced more often than any others at IPFW.
Oh,
this will be the 4th production. Like I said, I had the opportunity to do it the last time, and so.
Right. I remember the discussions of what we might do for the 50th, and the first thing out of Your mouth was the Fantasticks. We
Yes,
could always do the
it was,
Fantasticks. Well, there's some. It's good for a university setting because it's not a large cast,
Right.
and it has legitimately young people in it. That sort of revolves around the young people. So
Yes.
it's a good vehicle for young performers.
It is, it is. And it's challenging work for them as well. And I've got a great cast, all majors except one alum, which is great, and this anniversary season.
Well, it
also.
fits in the season of celebrating 50 years. I think
Yes.
there'll be alumni, hopefully, in most of our 5 productions.
I hope so.
For the
Yes.
for the season. Where are you performing at? What theater are you going to be in?
This will be in our studio theater, which is actually where it was the last time. As well, all previous productions of Fantasticks have been over there when that was the only theater.
Right, right.
So.
Why that choice?
Because it's small, it's intimate, and Fantasticks is a very intimate show. The Williams would have been a nice space for it, but there's something even nicer about it being as close as it is over in the studio theater.
I've seen the Fantasticks several times, and I can say that the one production I saw that was in large scale was not as successful as the ones that I've seen that are intimate. I think the nature of it being off-Broadway and being in that little Playhouse Square that it was, that Playhouse Theater that was in originally, you know, sort of cries out that it be performed that way in any other kind of venue, because it's just not, it's not a big musical splashy, it's very intimate. The songs are touching, and the dialogue is intimate and close. And
it's about being simple.
Right.
The entire approach to the show, as traditionally done, and I'm doing it in a very traditional fashion, is that it's very intimate, or very simple. There's very little set. The costumes aren't remotely extravagant. It's really about that story.
And it's cast already. Who's helping you who's on your team?
My musical director is Mindy Cox, who has been my musical director for the last several years, and she and I have a terrific working relationship. And our instrumental music is being handled by Holly Knott, who also works with us on a regular basis.
It's important to have a team that you can come back to. I find when I do musicals, I like to work with people that I've worked with before. You get to there's just a short conversation you can get to. You can say things to each other very quickly. You know what you mean. You begin to build a working relationship that's both in style and in communication very familiar.
Exactly. And Mindy and I have now been doing this for about 8 or 9 years together.
And she's so good.
Yeah. And she and I we work in the same fashion.
Exactly.
And it makes it very easy for us.
Right.
And enjoyable.
Right.
Which is so important. But
yeah. And so it's in this, I've not seen a musical in the studio.
There haven't been that many. And I've done the last 3. The last musical in there was a show that no one knows called Flora the Red Menace. If it's known, it's only known because it was Liza Minnelli's first starring role in New York. I did a production of that in '03. Yes, and before that, it was the 1996 production of the Fantasticks.
Right, and I would bet a lot of our viewers will know the studio theater as the Pit Theater.
Yes.
Right, that's how most of our viewers, when we say we're going to the studio theater, I usually have to translate and say, well, okay, the Pit Theater.
Yes.
So that is the theater that has been around since 1964. Bob Tolan, who started the theater department in 1964, did his first production in that space, which they called the Purdue, Indiana Theater, hence Pitt Theater. And I just recently learned, as we begin to get ready for our celebration, that Bob Tolan successfully stole that space away from a communications teacher who was going to make it into a TV studio. And so he just moved his rehearsal in there and put some bleachers up and said, we're doing a play in here. And the poor TV guy walked in and said, this was supposed to be a dedicated TV studio. He said, too bad, we got a show opening. You're out. And henceforth, it's been a theater ever since. So way to go, Bob Tolan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that.
That was our space when I came here in '91. That was our only space. And the Williams Theater opened 2 years later. So.
So where do how many musicians do you have for the Fantasticks?
Only 3. It's scored for piano, harp, and percussion. We've unfortunately not been able to locate a harpist, so we're doing it with 2 keyboards and percussion.
Okay. And they will be where?
Right next to the set, in full view of the audience, right next to us.
Is the set a proscenium set?
It is,
Or is
yes.
it is a proscenium set?
I'm doing it in a traditional end staging proscenium fashion.
Right, great,
yes.
great. What are the particulars with regard to that production? What are the dates?
We open September 12th, and we have performances 2 weekends through September 20th.
And the ticket information is?
Available through the IPFW box office, 260-481-6555.
Or they can get tickets online at ipfw.edu/tickets.
Yes.
So that's the Fantasticks. We have a little time left. Let's just run through the season that you guys have planned for the rest of the year.
Gladly, gladly. Fantasticks is in September. In the beginning of October, we have the classic Tennessee Williams American Institution of the Glass Menagerie.
Beautiful play.
Lovely play, directed by Jeff Casazza. And then that's followed by The Imaginary Invalid.
The Imaginary Invalid, a classic which not everybody's heard of, but we'll get them there.
Yes, directed by
the
John
one and
O'Connell.
Only John O'Connell, that's right.
And that will also be, opening night of that will be our true celebration of our 50th.
November 14th.
November 14th.
Is an alumni celebration, and
Yes.
the public's invited as well.
Absolutely.
But there'll be a reception and a celebration prior to it.
And that Imaginary Invalid was the very first show ever produced at IPFW in November of 1964, and we're doing it in November of 2014.
Right.
Second semester, our new incoming chair of theater, Dr. Beverly Redman, will be directing Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean. And then we close out the season in April. I'm once again directing the Stephen Sondheim, George Firth musical, Merrily We Roll Along.
So 2 musicals this year.
Two
which
musicals,
is a little bit
ambitious.
out of our norm. No,
Yes.
but that's good. Audiences love musicals.
Right.
You do a fine job.
And we have a musical theater emphasis with a lot of terrific students now, and it's another opportunity for them to get to ply their trade.
Right, and it's important for recruiting to tell people that we're not afraid, to tell new students that we're not afraid to do more than one musical a year if we have the talent for it. And we certainly have the talent for it in our program now for 2 musicals. And we certainly appreciate you stepping up to the plate and taking over both of them and leaving me with the old horse. Thank you for that, Craig. I so appreciate it. No, I'm having a good time with it. Now, I think both of them are in rehearsal right now. We know Fantasticks is, and Glass Menagerie is also in rehearsal.
Started Monday night. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Well, I look forward to the Fantasticks. It's 2 weeks away, and I can't wait to see a musical in the Pitt Theater.
All right.
Never experienced that. Please take this minute to enjoy our performance calendar of what's coming up in our area, and I'll be right back with Rachel Mondragon from the Wagon Wheel Theater in Warsaw.